Welcome, and welcome to 7 fabulous ways to quickly sell your home. Yes, and that is for more money. Today we will be looking at a few elements that homeowners just like you can practice when you are getting ready to sell your home and want to squeeze out a little bit more equity. There are fundamentally several things that homeowners can do to squeeze out that more value out of the home that you have held for very long and getting ready to sell. The first way is, yes, it is indeed, hire a realtor. Why do I say that? Well, first of all, it makes sense. When your children are having some stomach issues, you do not take them to the optometrist, right? By the same token, if you are having plumbing issues, you do not go to the baker. Real estate is first of all a highly regulated business. Yeah, it is, as you can imagine. We do have a lot of regulation, laws, and things that a realtor actually are skilled to handle. Not only are we going to take care of the negotiation, the contracts, and any of the local laws that we have to bear in mind in a certain area, we're also going to, yes, work for you. Realtor works for you, and we can save you up to 80 to 100 hours of your time. Now, if you are comfortable with contracts and you have a lot of time on your hands to do the marketing and everything that needs to get done for a home, there are those do-it-yourselfers, and I take my hat off for them. But for the majority of Americans, hiring a realtor just makes sense because we solve problems. That's what we do, and that's what we're good at. The second way which you can save more money is all in the realm of staging. It is almost impossible to explain how much emphasis we should put on staging. You know the 80-20 rule, right? Where 80% of your workforce gives you 20% of the output, right? And only 20% of your resources really are the ones that generates the amount of work that needs to come out. Now that rule applies here within real estate as well. 20% of the information that we focus on is vital, but 80% is trivial. It's that 20% that is vital that we go after as realtors. When you are getting ready to list your home, one of the aspects that you always have to bear in mind is, who do you want to draw? Which buyers do you want to draw to see the property? You have to think like them. Bear in mind what they are looking for, right? If you advertise a property in a generic manner, you will draw a very wide spectrum of buyers to your property, many which will not be the right buyers for your property. Some might be, but that's not an efficient way of working, right? The majority of agents out there apply the strategies of writing generic descriptions, drawing a very broad spectrum of buyers, which a lot of buyers do not appreciate, right? If you sit down and identify your key features of your property, and the way I usually explain this to a lot of buyers is, when you sit down and you think where you enjoyed some of your most precious moments, let's write that down. Let's get that into a story. Where did your now 5-year-old take their first baby steps in the property? Let's turn that into a story. Where did you hang the football trophy that your son in high school earned at the local high school? Let's turn that into a story, right? Do you have a beautiful view that you have from the patio? Or do you have exceptional privacy for your property? So there is an art to writing a property description. Writing a property description is not just a paragraph or two what the property is about. Writing a property description is really the heart of selling. It is the heart of what you're going to put in front of millions of buyers. And if we do not get that description right, the property could struggle. But if we get it right, if we do get it right, we can move that property significantly faster and draw the right people to the transaction. Make sense? We always do want to think of, do you have a unique backyard? Do you have a pond that has a story connected to it? You have a water feature. We think about the stories, the moments in the backyards, and we will convert them into something that's really powerful. And when you can sit down and write a story like that, you can really penetrate the heart of the right buyer. Professional photos is another aspect. Every single transaction that we take on, we get a professional photographer to take the photos. Man, we have seen some photos taken on a mobile phone and even other regular cameras, and there honestly is not a match, not even close, to what a professional real estate photographer can do for your home. It's a small investment. They take some of the most phenomenal pictures of a property, and since the aspect which most buyers spend the most time on, so they spend more time on the photo than the description, because clearly it's the visual aspect that draws them in, right? They're first going to see the photos, then they will read description. Unless we get phenomenal photos in place, they're not going to read the description. There's several companies that specialize in this, and they do an amazing job. One of the things they do is they would take photos in three separate exposures. They overlay them on top of each other. And the outcome is that you get a very bright picture where all the colors come through. Without it, we cannot in any way undermine the professional photography, without a doubt. So as I mentioned earlier, there is an art to writing a property description. Let me tell you what I do. I would walk into the property. If the owner is there, it sometimes helps. But if the owner is not there, it's fine too. And I would sit in the middle of the home, dead quiet, me and my notebook, and just absorb the area and think about the stories and elements that occurred in the space, the running around of the children, the grandparents visiting. I would look at the space that is available and what I can envision that space to be for a new buyer, the kind of buyer we're trying to attract. I always write my property descriptions in the property. Never write my property descriptions outside of the property. Because it's in the property where you can absorb and see some of the detail which you cannot see outside of the property. And it's those uniquenesses, that 20%, that if you can capture that 20% in the description, you will draw the correct buyers to the transaction. Make sense? When you think about journalists, they always say you have to start with the lead, right? When they write a headline, they always start with the most invaluable information in the beginning. And this holds true for property descriptions too. Mention your unique features first. The features that separate this property from all other ones in the same category. You want that within the first line. Because if you do not capture their attention within the first 1, 2, or 3 lines, you've lost them. You have to establish your uniqueness, your unique selling opportunity here within those first few lines. That's what will make you different. We also look at things where we can turn negatives into positives. When we have a property, for example, a property that is reasonably older than some new ones being developed right now. For example, if you think about a scenario where we have new condos coming up in an area and we have an old condo that we're trying to sell. How are we going to sell that old condo for a reasonable price, or as close as possible to what the new ones are selling for right now? We have to think and explain in terms of equity. Will this property be 5 years down the line, possibly the same value as the ones that are brand new right now. Once we can have those conversations and turn those into equitable conversations, we can turn negatives into positives. And these negatives exist in all properties. It could be a home right next to a busy road. Now, that busy road could cause a little bit of additional noise in the background, but it can bring an extra level of convenience to the new buyers. A home right opposite a school to some would be a negative element because of the traffic and the noise that comes with it. But to a new family with little kids that go to that school, it could be an absolute perfect property. So we look for those negatives, how we can turn them into positives, and we build them into the description. Make sense? So then we look at additional ways. There is also a third way. Third way which you can improve your property and sell it for a phenomenal price. That is staging. And staging actually comes with a lot of aspects. If we think about staging itself, there's a lot of aspects that we would cover. But let me give you this one example. We had this scenario where we had 3 condos. One of the condos was selling for about $470,000. Another one for about $430,000. The last one for one, or basically $500,000, $550,000. What made the $550,000 condo sell for that as opposed to the other 2? If we really dig into it and we looked and investigated all the individual aspects of all 3 properties, what we did find, the expensive property was staged well. Even though staging could cost you an initial investment to get a property staged properly, it can definitely extend and squeeze out additional equity. Non-staged properties, we do know, they show more difficult. But a staged property is definitely worth the investment, and it can increase the speed at which the property sells, without a doubt. Stagers, when you hire a stager, they are the kind of people that have your audience in mind. They listen to who the buyers are. They look for the components that buyers are going to look for. And they know exactly where to place the certain furniture and amenities around the property that kind of buyer is going to look for. So without a doubt, it's worth the investment. Now, within the staging space, we have several, as we like to call them, tips, right? Several tips that could make your staging phenomenal, that every homeowner should know if they're getting ready to sell their home. The first tip, spotless. It's got to be spotless. And even though that sounds obvious, if you're not going to be in the home, but even in the matter if you are going to be in the home when it shows, it is worth investing in proper cleaning. And what I mean by cleaning is not your cleaning that you get on a regular basis. There are actually cleaning companies that specialize in model homes, for example. They would clean just like a detailer cleans your car. They would clean around every single corner. They would go and look at places where you would typically not look to go and clean. We can refer to this as hardcore cleaning, right? It is literally detailing. It's like detailing your car, you're detailing your home. And we got to declutter. I know you've heard that before, and it is difficult. It is difficult, especially if you live in the home, right? If you're still in the property and you are getting it ready to sell, it is difficult. And if you've got kids, it's even more complicated. But decluttering doesn't have to be. It is simply a structured process that you go through room by room and boxing away what we can get rid of that shouldn't be on the surfaces. We also refer to this as depersonalization. We take down everything that's personal. Reason being, when a new buyer walks into the room, they should be able to envision their own life in that room. They should be able to imagine, envision, place their furniture around the room, how they think it would be if they would have purchased the home. And with a lot of personal aspects around the space, it makes it more difficult for people. And no, it's all people. We all are like that. No different, right? So, the first tip, we have to declutter, we have to depersonalize, then hardcore cleaning. Tip number 2 that we have here, you know, as we do some rehabs as well, often rehabbers would say we're doing paint and carpet, and that is true. A fresh layer of paint could turn a home to look virtually new. And paint is not expensive. If your paint hasn't been painted inside or outside for that matter, you can get the home painted for a reasonable amount. If you're willing to do it yourself, even better. If you're the do-it-yourselfer, awesome. But a fresh layer of paint is tip number 2. Tip number 3, we want super bathrooms. Bathrooms and kitchens are ultra important. You get your most value when selling your property out of what you've done in your bathrooms and your kitchens. Always consider and see if remodeling any of those aspects could actually increase your value. It is known that typically whatever a homeowners invest, and it's just a general rule of thumb, what you invest in your kitchens and your bathrooms, you normally make back when you sell the property. General rule of thumb, it's not a science, but it is pretty accurate. If we go according to the National Association of Realtors survey, they talk about how important buyers see new appliances be, right? 17% of buyers in today's market basically expect stainless steel appliances. 17%, that's almost close to 20, right? They're very concerned about the looking of the appliance, and they are willing to pay as much as $2,000 more on a transaction just to make sure that they get new looking appliances. So when you're looking at your kitchen, review it. Ask yourself, does it look modern? Does it look like, does it have the stainless steel looks? And if it doesn't, that's fine. You could still list it that way. But just ask yourself, does it look modern? Does it look fresh? Does it look new? Because sometimes we can actually still have older appliances and still look modern. You know what I mean? Then another aspect to go over is updating your hardware. You know, hinges, knobs, handles. It is extremely easy to do task yourself. Go online, order a box of hinges. I've done that myself. Box of hinges, a box of knobs, and go through your whole home and change them. If you've still got brass in your home, for example, yes, definitely get a stainless steel kind of look, or not necessarily stainless steel. Even, you know, the brushed oil could also work very well. And through your whole home, change all of them. It will give a fresh new look to your property right off the bat. So the other thing I just want to go over here is a little bit of talk of refinishing, right? When you look at your bathrooms, and this applies to your kitchens as well, you do not always have to buy new. There are cases where simply refinishing your cabinets could serve the purpose. By the same token, you could get to scenarios where just refinishing a bathtub would serve the purpose. Refinishing is much more affordable than replacing, and it's definitely something to consider once you get ready to sell your home. Now, don't always just jump to the refinishing simply because it's going to save you money, right? That's not necessarily a good avenue to go either. But know that it's an option. Tip number 4 for staging here. You can never have enough storage, whether it's attic or whether it's organizer space. If you have a space in the house where simply all it's going to take to create more storage is to put a decent organizer in it, do it. If you have some attic space that's not storage friendly, do the minimal just to make it storage friendly. For attic space, there's not much you have to do to make it storage friendly, right? Because people have additional storage when they buy a new property. Tip number 5. You can often take an additional room in your property, in your home. If it doesn't have a closet in it, put a closet in and you have an extra bedroom. It depends on the neighborhood, right? If you have an office or a den, and in your neighborhood majority of the homes have 4 bedrooms in it and yours only has 3, put in a closet. And once you've got your closet in there, you have just turned your home into a 4-bedroom. The other aspect, tip number 6, mechanical maintenance. I cannot express the importance of this, but every single homeowner really do know the importance of it. What we talk about mechanical maintenance is your electrical boxes, gas lines, plumbing, HVAC, and so forth. You have to maintain those. You have to maintain them while you're in the property, but when you are getting ready to sell, they are critical. They're critical for you to go through the property and make sure that they are functional and that they're working properly. It might mean you have to get the HVAC technician out to do some maintenance, but it's well worth it, because anything that are wrong with these mechanical elements often do come up later when you go through the buying process, right? So it's better for you to fix them now than them coming up later. According to the National Association of Realtors survey, 65% of buyers are very concerned about the home's HVAC system. Get a warranty on it. They're cheap. They're absolutely cheap. And they buy you credibility. Step number 7 for staging. The whole problem we have with carpet. Do I shampoo? Do I steam? Do I replace? It is a very difficult thing to give an answer to right off the way, but I think most people, when they look at their carpet, they know the answer. Does it look completely miserable? Yes, shampoo is not going to help you, right? But you'll be able to assess. But a shampoo is an option. You can either hire a shampooer or get one from your Home Depot down the street, or any hardware store like that. If some deeper cleaning is needed, you might want to hire someone that does steam cleaning, right? Steam clean the carpets and make an assessment. That being said, replacement is an option, but here's the thing you have to understand when replacing carpet. You're not replacing your own taste. When you replace carpet, and this holds true for painting too, I think I didn't mention that by painting, is we always go for neutral colors, carpet and paint. And most people don't really enjoy neutral colors, right? Neutral colors being the beiges or the light grays, for example. Reason being, it is easier for new homeowners to enter the property in those colors, and once again, envision how their home would look when they see those colors. If they walk into a room that's shocking green and shocking red, with purple carpet, that's a bit of a challenge for them to imagine how their life would be there. But if it's neutral, soft carpet and wall colors, it's so much easier for them to do that. So that's why. There is one other element here for us to remember on the flooring side of things, right? Cracked tile. Often you run into tiles that crack over the years. How do you deal with those? They're not so difficult to be honest with you. Number 1, replace the tile if you can find the tile. I personally have been through this not too long ago myself. It's not easy to find the same tile. It's quite challenging. Replace the tile if you can. If you cannot replace the tile, you do find some kits to repair tiles. Although, this is the thing. You can repair a tile, but still disclose it, right? So if you have some cracked tiles in the kitchen, repair them. And then on your seller's disclosure, you simply disclose there's a crack tile in the kitchen in the southwest corner, which I repaired the crack on. You didn't replace the tile, you repaired the crack on, right? I had a neighbor here which he went to go and buy crayon, and he dropped crayon into a crack. Heated it up, wiped it off. It looked perfect in his case. I didn't see that, but he explained to me exactly how he did it, and clearly his colors matched. There's so many tricks of the trade. The other thing is regrouting, if we think about flooring, right? If you have a kitchen floor or bathroom floor and the grout color has sort of faded over the years, what can you do about it? Regrout. You can either regrout or you can actually paint the grouting. It makes if your tile is still in good condition, it will make that floor look virtually brand new. Tip number 8 under staging here. Yes, we can brighten up the house. How? Yes, with light. I know of an agent. He gets out a electrician every time a home goes to be listed and changes all the lights. And no, not fluorescent lights, incandescent lights. Amazing. And the reason for that is the amount of light it releases just simply makes the home look warmer. Replaces all the bulbs. Now, is that necessary for you? It might not be necessary for you, but at least make sure all your bulbs are working and that you've got sufficient amount of light in each room, because the more light you've got, it just creates a better feeling when the new homeowner walks into the room. Dark rooms typically don't sell very well, they just don't. But a warm, inviting room with lights on, it's very inviting, and they can imagine how their life would be in that room. Replace your new fluorescent bulbs all over the home. Fluorescent bulbs that probably there's 2 up there, but only one has been working for a while. Go replace the second one. And don't forget, we're also talking about your lighting outside, not just your lighting inside. Let's see what else we've got here for you. The 4th way. So the 4th way is all about how to negotiate to get the highest price. Now, that's not an easy thing to do, I know. Some of us negotiate in our day-to-day jobs that we do, but for others of us, it's a little bit of a stretch. But if you know of the pitfalls and you know of how to do it, you should already be off much better. Mistake number 1 is when sellers don't learn from the other parties what their motivations are. Why are they selling? Now, in some cases you can't actually ask directly, but you can figure it out along the way. Price is not always their main determination. Remember that. Sometimes someone's moving because they want to be into a new school district. Other scenarios, they might be moving because they found a new job. If you meet the buyers, you can ask them, why are you moving, right? If you are working through an agent, you could use different ways to ask the same questions. You could ask, how does this home compare against the others that you've seen? You can also ask the agent, where are the buyers moving from? Other questions could give you the equivalent amount of information, but you want to figure out what the motivation is. Another mistake often made is meeting in the middle. So when you go through the negotiation phases and you are asked to reduce your price by $10,000, is to go to the middle for 5. Not a very strong negotiation tactic. From a negotiation point of view, increase in 10 or 20% at a time. That way, you are not fully giving away your stance of power but still standing by the price that you listed the property at is the price you want to negotiate at. If you give big jumps in negotiation spurts, then it does show that the price you listed at the property was not really the price that you were willing to sell at. And then the mental picture gets drawn that the price that you're willing to sell the property at are actually much lower. Go figure. Well, as I am actually doing a video, the other mistake made is you talk too much and you listen too little, right? You have to listen more and speak less, whether that is to the buyer's agent or to the buyers. Listen to what the motivations are. It goes back to number one. Listen to what they're looking for. You might be able to style the home, stage the home, or change how you speak about things if you know why they want to buy or what the reasons are. Mistake number 4, making the first move. Now that's odd because there are the train of thought that says making the first move is a good thing. But when the buyer asks what their bottom line is, don't tell them. Often that question comes up when a buyer asks a seller, "Oh, how much would you want the property to go for? What's your bare minimum? What's your bottom line?" You say, "My bottom line is my listing price. I listed it at this price and that's the price I'm selling at." There is no bottom line. If you say you've got a bottom line, you step into a weaker place with regards to negotiation. Negotiating. What a tongue twister. So, now that you know what not to do, let's think about what to do. Especially in the market as it is today, technique number 1. We find ourselves in the counteroffer scenario quite often. The pro clearly is that the seller would seem more flexible, right? If you get yourself in a counteroffer situation, it creates the idea that the seller might be more flexible. That being said, the con of a counteroffer situation is there's this multiple back and forth scenario which often can be very time consuming. It puts your home longer on the market, right? So be skilled and be prepared that if you are going into a counteroffer situation, how you're going to manage it. And how you're going to manage it, one of the best tools there is knowing exactly how much you want your to sell your property for. Know how much it's worth by the time that you're in the counteroffer situation. Technique number 2, close your ears. Here it comes. Reject the counteroffer. Reject it and ask them, the seller, give them another bone. Say no, but it's okay to resubmit a higher offer. Think about that. We say no, but submit a higher offer. That puts you in a strong place of power again. You say no to what came in, but you are still showing that you're willing to review an additional offer that came in at a higher price. Also shows that you're not just going to give in to what they're asking. It's a very powerful technique. Technique number 3. Let's go at a bidding war. Put your house on the market, right? In this scenario, you would typically put your house on the market. Schedule an open house just a few days later, 2 or 3 days later. And then you submit a disclaimer that said only certain offers, that you'll only entertain certain offers after a certain time, after the open house. And then you set an expiration date on that for extra motivation. So to manage multiple offers, it's a good technique if you want to manage those multiple offers, because First, you build momentum, right? By having the open house, then accepting the offers, and then saying the offers has to be in at a certain time. You're also reducing the amount of time for the window of opportunity for offers to come in. So many buyers would typically submit because it creates this scenario of quote unquote bidding scenario. It can be very taxing for you as the seller, as both as the seller and as the seller's agent. But it brings in a lot of options, and options is what you want. Ultimately, if you're going through the motions of selling your property, options is what you want. You want to be able to choose which of the offers you are going to execute. Technique number 5, if we're here in the space of negotiation. Raise the price and pay the closing cost. It's a phenomenal technique. Often, buyers do not have all the cash to come up to the transaction. You as the seller could increase your price and pay the closing cost of the seller. In this way, of the buyer. In this way, the buyer doesn't have to come up with as much cash if they really want the home, of course. Here's the risk. The risk in this scenario is that it is possible that the house does not appraise. Now, if the house does appraise, you don't have a problem. You just created a negotiation technique that came to the closure of the transaction. Beautiful. But if the buyer's financing goes through the financing cycle, they appraise the home and it comes back and it says it doesn't appraise, you will have to renegotiate with the buyer what you're going to do. It's a technique, it's not a silver bullet. But it is definitely a tool to have at in your back pocket for in case you get to that place where you would like to use it. Technique number 6 is strange. Yeah, you can change your mind. Also, always remember, within the space of negotiation, you have the right to change your mind. If you feel you're losing the negotiation, you can typically just go ahead and tell the seller tell the buyer you're thinking about taking the property off the market. What this creates is, once again, it changes the dynamic of the negotiation. If you're in the weaker position of the negotiating strategy and you feel you're being taken advantage of, simply step into that space and tell the buyer, I'm taking the property off the market, I'm thinking about it for a bit. Now, I know it could be scary, but once again, it is a negotiation technique, not a silver bullet. There's a right place to use it in the right time. But if you feel you're being taken advantage of in the negotiation, it's a strategy that you can use. So let's just for a moment talk about how to evaluate your property, right? One of the most critical aspects once you're getting ready to sell your home is to price it right. You cannot go and price it wrong. And that, for the most part, is why real estate agents are around. We're good at it. We're good at establishing what the right price for your property is. Now, always get an appraisal. Now, you want to get an appraisal either by an appraiser, an agent. There's different ways of getting an appraisal, but you do want to make sure you get an appraisal. If you price below market value, right, your home could move quickly. 1, 2, 3, and it could be sold already, but you could lose a significant amount of equity. If you price above market price, your home could sit for too long and not move. You could go through a lot of negotiation, or as we just mentioned earlier, you could actually go under contract and your home not appraised. Those are some of the risks. Now, I do want to share one other aspect here. So, when real estate agents and all of us, when we do a comparative analysis of the market for you, we look at past data. And it's very important to understand that that is exactly what it is. When we do a comparative analysis, we look at how many homes sold, and personally, I would always first look how many sold in the past 3 months. If I can get enough data that way, I'll take it. If I can't get over the past 3 months, I'm going to go back to the past 6 months. But here's the message that I'm trying to drive home. A good agent knows, and so should you, that that data you're looking at is the past. It is not the future. Now, past performance is not indicative of how the future is going to play out, right? So you need to understand the market as well. You need to understand what the market is doing and what it is doing to different segments within your neighborhood. Higher end homes might experience a different aspect than middle market homes, right? In the same area, in the same city. The fifth way for you to make sure that you get more money for your home, as I just mentioned, hire an appraiser right off the bat. Please make sure you do that. Hire a realtor. Yes, trust us. We know what we're doing. And for the do-it-yourselfer, which is fine. There are those that have the do-it-yourself spirit, that are comfortable with contracts and legal aspects within the real estate world. Realtor.com is one avenue. You can go in there and look at sold properties within your area, but make sure you exclude RIOs, short sales, foreclosures, and any other homes that would be considered, in all real aspects, distressed properties. Those are sometimes difficult to know, right? When is a property a distressed property or not? But they are definitely impacting the assessment of your market value. And if you don't know how to identify them, it can be a little tricky. The sixth way that you can really squeeze out more equity out of selling your home is by giving the buyer a little present. Well, it's called incentives. There are several incentives that you can give the buyer as you go through the process, right? Offer an allowance for decorating, an allowance for landscaping, for appliances, especially if they're big in the kitchen and bathroom. Well, kitchen especially for appliances, right? Pay for their home warranty. Home warranties are not that expensive. They're a few $100s. If you really want to put the cherry on the cake, tell the buyer you'll pay for their closing costs. We spoke about that earlier. Increase the price, but pay for their closing cost. It also helps them with their financing, but remember, you have that risk of the home appraising or not appraising. And I know this is going to sound off the wall, but sometimes we've got to think outside of the box. What about prepaying their property taxes? If you really want to move your property. These are simply incentives and tools that you can use to move the property faster. Doesn't mean they're perfect for all scenarios, but they're just tools to put in your back pocket for when the time is right. You can pull them out and possibly use them, right? The seventh way for you to squeeze more equity out of your property when you sell it is professional photography. I briefly touched on it earlier. Without a doubt, it decreases the selling time. The amount of time that your property would sit on the market will definitely be less with professional photography than it would be without. Also note that the kind of pictures, out of the indoor pictures and the outdoor pictures that viewers typically look at online, the ones they look at most are the outside. Yeah, that is statistically, they will spend more time looking at your garden, your landscaping, your pool, um, and then what they look at in the pictures on the inside, they'll spend much less time per picture than they do on the pictures outside. So, professional photography companies also offer a service to green the grass. What does that mean? They just make the grass a little greener. It's a tool they have, it's a service they offer. On higher end homes, you might want to consider doing a virtual tour. Virtual tours are absolutely awesome. You know, with drones being that so affordable nowadays, it is becoming more and more common to see virtual tours. It could cost you a few $100s once again, but if that investment you make up front reduces the amount of time that your property stays on market, isn't that worthwhile? Absolutely is, without a doubt. So, there we've gone over 7 different ways that you can sell your property for much more cash than you otherwise would. I invite you to go through this video again, make notes, take notes of everything that you think you can execute if you're getting ready to sell your property. Because if you go through these steps, by the time you get to list your home and you reach out to a realtor, majority of the work is going to be done already. I wish you luck, and I hope wish you success. We will see you on the other side.